My son was stricken with a very serious mental illness when he was 20 in college. And my first need was to take care of his immediate mental health, get him hospitalized, and then bring him home from college and see what decisions we were going to make from there. But I was fortunate enough to find this little tiny article in the newspaper about a course called Family to Family. And I read it, and it said it was going to help family members who were caregivers for persons with mental illness. And I said to my husband, I got to take this course. And it was free. And I took the course, and that course, NAMI's Family to Family, helped me so much. I was a school guidance counselor, so you would think that I was somewhat in the field of mental health as my career, but I can tell you I didn't know 1/100th of what I learned in the Family to Family course. And that really set me on the right course for being able to help my son, and also to overcome some of the emotional things that a family member goes through that can hold you back from being helpful to your loved one. If you're racked with guilt about, oh, did I do the wrong thing? Did I make mistakes when he was growing up? I should have done this, I should have done that. And one of the main themes of the course is that you should let go of all that guilt. Mental illness is biologically based, and something may trigger it, but it's biologically based. The family members are not responsible for causing. It's not like the Freudian days when everything was caused by the mother, according to Freud. So that was a big help too, the emotional component of the Family to Family course. And the course actually teaches you the emotional stages that the caregiver goes through. When mental illness strikes a close loved one in the family, it is devastating. Even if you were a practicing psychiatrist, you would be just as devastated by that happening to a close loved one as someone who knew very little about mental illness. It's so unexpected, and it's so difficult to deal with. But NAMI really understands those feelings that people go through, and the NAMI Family to Family and the NAMI Basics course curricula really tap into those terrible feelings. And that's another way that those courses help people. They acknowledge the feelings of loss and grief and confusion that the family member goes through. There is a day program in our county, a wonderful mental health day program, that needs to find a permanent location, and in the process of applying to build on property in one of the towns in our county, there was some resistance met from neighbors, and who were fearful. They were fearful of who would be in this program, and would they be dangerous people. And that was something that NAMI, those of us who've been educated through NAMI, could spread the word, the information that very few people who have mental illness are violent or dangerous in any way. And those that are, of course, we all hear about these things that happen on the news, but those are almost inevitably people that have not been in treatment. And a lot of the reason people don't get into treatment is because of the stigma. They're afraid to identify themselves, as they know that something's going awry in their brain, but they're afraid if they admit that to anyone, then they're going to be feared and hated and shunned by society. So that's part of stigma, and stigma is a big roadblock for people getting treatment. But here, this facility that was looking for a home in our county, those people were voluntarily in treatment. They were not people who were going to be dangerous in any way. So we took that opportunity to educate the community.
We also started a campaign where we felt that other charities, other organizations would go, say, to a supermarket and hand out brochures and give information to the customers coming and going. And we thought, why not NAMI? We'll try it. So we brought all our brochures, we set everything up, and as people would come up to us, we would hand them a brochure and say, we're with the National Alliance of Mental Illness, and if you have a loved one that is suffering our friend, then, here's some information for them. Well, people just sort of brushed us aside or took it or didn't even look, yes or no, and they went by. And after a couple times like this, I realized, all right, this isn't working. So I said, let's say to people, we're busting the stigma of mental illness. And as we did, people stood bolt upright, they stopped, and then we said, we're with NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and we have so many free programs to offer if you know of someone in your family or a loved one or friend. And I wish that we had someone there counting up, because it seemed like 80% of the people stopped and shared. And they shared their most personal thoughts. They would say, my husband is severely depressed for a long time. My niece committed suicide. My child is bipolar. And they said so many things that would have never been said to even anyone else. And they said, when I tell my relatives, they're like, oh, he's just lazy, or he should get off the couch and get a job. And they said they don't really understand that this person is sick. And she said, well, many of them said, we're so happy you're out here and spreading the word. And it was amazing. It was a real eye-opener. So we were busting the stigma.
One thing that we've done in our county that I want to mention that we're extremely proud of is we've been able to educate the police officers in the county about how best to interact with persons who are in a mental health crisis. And not that the police were doing a bad job with that, but I don't think they had a lot of specific education about mental illness. So we brought NAMI New Jersey's LEAP program, it stands for Law Enforcement Education Program, to last fall, every municipal officer and every county jail officer in Sussex County has had a 2-hour training in this. It's life-changing. That's what we keep hearing, that this course changed my life, changed my family's life. And it's interesting that it's not always, in fact, I'd say it's not often, families taking the course who are new to dealing with mental illness. A lot of the families that take the course have been dealing with the serious and persistent mental illness of a loved one for 20 or more years. So their child, usually it's parents who come to the course, so their child is now an adult, perhaps a middle-aged adult. And even those families say, this course changed my life. This changed my whole way of thinking about this. Because the tendency is in most families, there's a lot of guilt, a lot of blame, and the course really helps to redirect all that. So many people have mental health issues. It's not something to be ashamed of or feel stigmatized by, because the statistics are that at any given time, 1 in 4 persons has a diagnosable mental health issue. And more recently, I read a statistic that 1 in 2 will have a diagnosable mental health issue in their lifetime.